Good morning. Good morning. This is the Early Birds podcast. And today we have a special guest from the Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, Major Singleton. Sir, how you doing today?
Good, man, Jonathan. It's good to have, good to be on with you. I'm honored that you'd invite me. I respect you a lot, and I'm happy to be here with you.
The feeling is mutual, my friend. So one thing about Major, guys, so he's in Dallas, which means he's an hour behind. And right now, it is 6:40 a.m. Eastern, and it is 5:40 a.m. where Major is. So he's sitting there in the comfort of his home, it looks like, his beautiful kitchen there. So I appreciate you jumping on. So Major's been in the broker space for about 2 years now. But prior to that, Major, obviously you had a pretty extensive career, and I think that has a lot to do with you waking up early, the discipline. So I kind of like you to talk about that discipline and what it took for you to be able to wake up like this, just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed already this early in the morning.
Yeah, so I spent 23 years in the Navy, and that part was, I think that was instrumental in me being intentional early in the morning. I had to get up early on many mornings, obviously, but as my career went on and, you start getting wiser about things and you don't want to rush into the day, I started getting up early, having a cup of coffee, probably, it's by the way, my first cup of coffee. My second cup comes about 9:30. It's just a habit, called coffee life water. But I started doing that, and I started just being more intentional with my mornings, and to get my day started and to make sure I was planning correctly for the day.
I love that. And one of the things you talked about was being intentional when you wake up. And that's something I've been talking about on these seasons is, okay, what does it mean to wake up early, right? Do you just wake up to wake up, or do you have a purpose? We see so many people post on social media, right? Oh, I'm up and early. What are you actually getting accomplished? So can you talk about that intentional meeting, and how do you find intention for those kids, right, 17, 18, 19-year-olds that maybe don't have that? How can you build intention?
Yeah, so my mornings are, my alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m. every morning, and I'm up out of bed. I have about an hour before my brother lives right down the street from me, so he comes over at 6 and we work out. So I have about an hour every single morning, so I have time to reflect. I have a system that I do. I'm sitting right here right now with my notepad. I'll share with you what is on my notepad because it's the same thing, basically every morning. I go through steps, a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 step. The first thing is the 5 things that I must accomplish that day. Some things are, carryovers from the previous day. And it's something that I started doing because I never want the urgent to overshadow the important. So, it's really, so we are in a business where, fires come up, and, it's if you don't handle change. So, I have the first thing is the top 5 things I must do that day. And sometimes it's people I need to talk to, or items I need to complete. Sometimes it's for that day. Sometimes it's for things that are going forward. The next thing is 4 thoughts, and they could be quotes that I want to reflect on. They could be, just thoughts I had about the previous day and situations that happened and how I'm processing those thoughts as an individual, as a growing individual. So they're generally thoughts that I'm having about things, and they're one-liners. Okay, so they're not like an essay or something like that. One of the things is things we talked about yesterday, things to remind myself, like we're building castles, not teepees. Yes. And that was a conversation that we had yesterday. And it's stuff to remind myself. They're just 4 general thoughts. Then there are 3 people I want to make sure I talk to that day. Okay. So it could be, could be a personal situation. I need to reach out to somebody I haven't talked to in a while, or, could be a realtor that I want to talk to. Could be a client that I know I want to specifically take some time to explain something to them. Or it could be somebody following up. Right now I have somebody on my list I need to follow up. They're in a credit repair situation, or credit, I don't like to say repair, I say credit restoration. And I want to follow up with them just to encourage them. And then the last thing is two things I want to do for my wife. And it's not two big things. I'll tell you, she's not down here. So one of the things on here today is slow dance with my wife.
Oh my God.
So, I'll take some time out of my day, just 3 days. Hey, look, you tell me you got your somebody's in the studio with you at 17. This is heavy stuff, man. This is heavy. This is heavy.
It's amazing.
And the last one is gratitude. One thing I'm grateful for. And I just write one thing I'm grateful for. I usually take about probably 15 minutes to write out that list. This is also my time to pray. I pray over that list, and sometimes when I'm praying, I'll get something. I'm a Jesus guy, so sometimes God will tell me to do something or reveal something to me, and I need to scratch something off that list and write something else down, or touch on my top 5. Some memory comes to me as I'm praying. Or the people that I need to reach out to. Somebody comes to my mind as I'm praying. I need to scratch somebody out because I only have 3 people on that list. Okay, that doesn't mean I'm not going to get to more people, but I have a top 3 that for that day. And sometimes people get bumped down the list, and we'll catch up on it tomorrow. So that's my format for my morning.
We can end the podcast right here, Rami, with that. I'm serious. That's the best life advice I think I've. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's the most dialed in morning routine that I've heard in many, many years. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for sharing that. That is incredibly special. And I want to roll that out to the company. So please leave a note of that. I think that's the beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that with us, Major. You talked about prayer. And, the older I get, I kind of talked to you briefly when we met in Vegas. I've been getting back into my faith. Met with, this incredible human being who's also a realtor, also a good friend of mine now. His name's Justin Ford. Been getting closer to my priest. I'm getting back into the faith, man, and I've been praying, and I've been reading the Bible again, and myself growing up a Jesus man, as well, and sometimes deter a little bit from that. What does faith mean to you throughout your journey? You talked about 23 years ex-military, now on this new path to obviously what you're doing, entrepreneurship. How has faith played a role in there? And have you ever seen yourself shy away from your faith? And how do you bring yourself back to that?
Yeah, man. I mean, we can have like a series of podcasts on the times I've strayed away, but it haven't always been like that. But I think it's important to be grounded and be purposeful. I believe that we are all created in the image of God. And as we are created in the image of God, we have to be able to see other people created in the image of God also. And I don't want people to get distracted by me saying Jesus, or you saying your priest, or all of that stuff. I don't want people to get distracted by that. The fact of the matter is we are spiritual beings having a earthly experience. So, we have to consistently connect with the spirit of something, the spirit of, there is a source that chooses, that desires to download stuff into us for that day. And sometimes people will reach out to me and like, Major, how did you know to do that? Or how did you know that was a situation? I'll give you an example. I was talking to a realtor yesterday, and first of all, I see my business as an extension of my business is an extension of my faith, or the exercising of my faith in the earth. So I'm talking to a realtor on yesterday, and we're just talking. And I remember the previous morning, a thought just came to me. Okay, there was a couple that we were trying to help buy a house, and it was like 4 months ago. but they've said, hey, this is and I deal a lot with military buyers. And she said, hey, I'm in Hawaii where I do like 70% of my business. And she said, hey, I'm in Hawaii. My spouse-to-be does not get here till October. And, she said, I said, okay, great. And really, I mean, this happens sometimes. We're not perfect. She really fell out of my mind,
okay.
And fell off the track or whatever. I did not follow up with her appropriately. So I'm in the middle of this conversation. And I said, hey, the realtor's name was Tyler. I said, Tyler, hey, by the way, what happened to this other couple that we were endeavoring to help get into a house? And he said, man, I don't know. And I said, okay, cool. He said, I'm going to follow up with them. I said, okay, cool. If you follow up with them today, I'll try to reach out tomorrow. He calls me back in 10 minutes. He's like, man, the husband just got to the island 2 days ago. Now, if I would have not been taking time in my faith or in my quiet time in the morning to just reflect and just clear my mind and sip my coffee, that I would have never given the opportunity for that download from my creator. So the time with my creator is going to produce income, okay, that I then produce income in the earth, and I then use that income to finance really other people's purpose in the earth. So it's a continuous cycle. And if you are not, maybe you're not a spiritual person, but there is a universe that desires to connect with you as an individual. There is an entity that desires to connect with you as an individual. So I recommend that people spend the time just quietly, not just doing, but connecting to your whatever source that is for you. I have a lot of friends who are Muslim. And whatever source that is for you, connect with that source, because there is that source desires to work in the earth, but that working in the earth only comes through working through people. 100%. So I think it's extremely important for all of us to just connect to that source first thing in the morning.
And you said spiritually, and that is so powerful, because I feel like there's always been forces, and I think if people really think about their life, right, and they look back, you always remember there was those times where something's pulling you in a direction, and sometimes you either ignored it or sometimes you jumped on it, and all of a sudden you're like, must have been a coincidence. That's not a coincidence, right? And no, I think the older I've gotten, the more I've listened to those kind of like, and then people are like, is it a voice? Is it? I'm like, look, it comes at everybody differently. Some people hear a voice. That's not a problem. Some people just feel it. Some people dream it. I personally sometimes dream it. That's just me. And I believe in it, though. I don't think I'm crazy. I don't think I'm like going nuts. It's like, wait, there's a reason something is pushing me towards here. Why don't I at least go investigate a little bit? Let me just go take a look and find out, and maybe something happens from it. And more times than not, to your point, something does occur. And, the other part that you mentioned, finding your spiritual, connection, and whether, you're of the Islamic faith, whether you're of the Jewish faith, it doesn't matter. That spirituality is there. And I'll tell you a quick story. I remember when I found out, and I was talking to my girlfriend, this is a couple years back now, probably 4 years ago now. And we're in our house. We were living in Las Vegas at the time, and we're outside. And I remember making fun of my girlfriend she was talking about your signs, right? Like a Virgo or Cancer or whatever. She's talking about all these astrological signs, and I'm like, babe, listen, like, I don't believe in that, whatever. Okay, Mercury's in retrograde, fine, whatever. So we're sitting there having this conversation, and my girlfriend says, well, let me ask you a question. I said, okay, sure. She said, how are the tides controlled? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, the tides here on Earth, how are they controlled? I said, the moon. She's like, well, if you know the moon controls the tides, and that's energy from the universe, wouldn't you think that energy is from all the other types of planets as well? And I looked at her, and I was so lost. I didn't have a rebuttal. It's kind of like when someone throws you just can't answer. And I just sat there and looked, and I literally hit her and looked at her, and I said, you're right. You're right. Like, I can't believe I've been thinking this my whole life when there is science that proves there's 100% energy from at least the universe. So if you don't believe in the spirituality of it, to your point, Major, the universe is there and it's telling you something, so you got to believe in that. And I think that's a big piece. I'm curious because I don't know much about your, past prior to being in the industry, and I'll talk about that shortly because it's been only 2 short years for you, and you found a bunch of success. But I want to think about a 20-year-old Major Singleton for a second. And,
what an idiot!
Yeah, and I want to think about things that Major now is more likely where he's more open to that he wasn't open to as a 21-year-old. That he wishes he may have been a little more open to back in the day?
I wish I would have been more open to the thoughts of other people. I wish I would have been more open to, I grew up, I'll tell you, I grew up in a very religious environment. And, that religious environment was good in some ways and it was bad. We'll sit down. One of the reasons that we moved to DFW, was, basically in the DFW area, my family's back together again. Yeah. So my brother moved from South Carolina. My sister moved from California. My mom was here in Texas. My mom moved from South Carolina to Texas. And it was just a good spot for us to kind of reconvene and have Sunday dinner every Sunday and everything and destroy my diet every single week. But I wish I would have been I had more conversations with people about their upbringing because I wanted my upbringing and my understanding I wanted to push that onto other people. And now I want to experience it with other people. I want to experience life with other people through their eyes. And it's very easy to be idealistic in this world, but you have to understand that person that you're interacting to came from a certain world with certain inputs and different ideas about life, different ideas about God, different ideas about our relationship with God. And I wish I at being 42 now, I just wish that if I'm talking to the 20-year-old me, I'm encouraging the 20-year-old me to experience life more, to experience people more, and don't try to be so forceful of saying my way is the way and you have to listen to what I have to say. I just like now having conversations with people because the more conversations that you have, the more you realize that, yeah, you know what, we're a lot alike. I have a very good friend and realtor partner, and she's Muslim. She's from Pakistan. A wonderful person who we just formed a great friendship with, or my family's formed a great friendship with. I think we bought 3 houses with her. So she loves us. Yeah. Joking, I say that jokingly, but she's just a great person. But the thing is, as I talk to her, I realize that in the Christian faith, we are often taught that anybody non-Christian is really against us. And that's just a reality of what we are taught. And the more I start to talk to people, and it's really interesting because if you talk to somebody that's not your faith, you'll realize that when you get down to the nicks and cracks of it, they have children. They want the best for their children. All of these things that they're taught about Christians, you're taught about them. It's really things that really are not, I say, really of God at all. God is God of all. So he wants us to have a relationship with one another just to see the humanity in people. So I would say 20-year-old me, I would tell them just to relax and have a lot more conversations and just experience people, love people as they are, and just don't make it so much about you.
I love that, man. And the word relax, I think I've heard that more times than not over my last 10 years for sure. Just relax, be patient, chill out. I start to think, and it's so, the reason I was asking too, we're starting to build our relationship, right? I feel like you and I over the last probably only 5-6 weeks,
Yeah.
Just speaking, having conversations, being genuine. Meeting in Vegas was awesome. One of the things for me, it's always like, okay, because I meet you now, and I kind of get I get this image of you, which is like, okay, here's everything I've gone through. Now this is like the man I'm gonna be, and this is the man. This is what I'm gonna put into the world, and all I see is, this humble, hardworking, dedicated, dialed-in human being, which is such a big piece. Oh, we lost him.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay, good.
I think you got.
Sorry about that. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, all I see is that kind of human being. So let me ask you a question, and I'm also curious. When did that change for you?
It's a difficult question, and it's almost, it's almost like my wife asking, when did you know I was the one?
Yeah.
It's a very, some people have the answer to that question, and I started, I stopped trying to answer it. It's just like, there was no event, there was no that I could point out for me. There was no event. It's been a progression of life and a progression of you allowing yourself to change, and allowing yourself to become a different person. And me and my wife talk about this all the time. And, if you're young and you're about to get married, you have to embrace the fact that the people say all the time, like, well, I'm getting divorced because you changed. Well, yeah, that's supposed to freaking happen. Okay. If you are the same person at 43 that you were at 23, there's a problem with the system. Okay. So, I don't think that there was a point where something changed. I cannot think of a definitive life defining moment. I can think that there have been points along the way, people that I've encountered where progressively I changed into a different person, and I learned to be just comfortable with myself and comfortable with other people. So yeah, I can't think of a definitive spot, Jonathan. It's just really the progression of life and having and experiencing certain things along the way, and saying, you know what, and allowing yourself to be reflective and saying, hey, you know what, maybe I'm wrong about something. Maybe my ideas are wrong about something. And just allowing yourself to kind of morph into a person with a different understanding about things.
I love that. And I kind of want to rephrase the way I stated it, because I agree with you on that. Sometimes it's not just one defining moment. In some cases it is, right? But for the most part, it's a bunch of different little moments that turn into, who you are today. And I can say the same for myself. But what I will say, and I will ask you the same question, I've always had a idea of the man I wanted to be, if that makes sense. Where I told myself, and I remember thinking about it when I was very young too, I remember even thinking to myself how much money I wanted to make by a certain age. I remember thinking I wanted to be married by this time. And I remember thinking, like, I know the man I want to become. And I've asked women that question before, have you thought about even, the woman you want to be down the road? And some of them have also told me the same thing. Of course they have. And so I'll switch the question up a little bit and ask you that instead. Did you have an idea or depiction of the man that you believed you wanted to become? And were you kind of pushing towards those goals consistently?
Yeah, now that's a great question. And I would encourage anyone to, if you've decided that you want to become someone, or the image of what you want to be. And I can also tell anyone, if you look around you, listen, people have said this a million times, but it is absolutely true. If you look at your 5 closest friends, your associations, that is literally who you will become.
100%.
Listen, I'm 42 years old now, and I try to buck against that system every single time, because I had friends that were like just idiots, knuckleheads. And now, fortunately, some of those friends have evolved over time with me. So, I had friends, and I would be like, well, I'm not going to be like that person. Not just because they do that doesn't mean that I'm going to do that. Listen, if you look around you at your 5 friends, look at the people that you're associating with, the people that you're choosing to spend time with. That is who you will become. That's the path that you're going down in your life. You need to be around people who are growing and who are endeavoring to grow, and people who are having ideas about the future, and people who are building something for their lives and something that will outlive their lives. You need to have people in your life that are actually doing that and spend time with those people. I'm grateful now at this point in my life that I have people who are most of the times if I take up my top 5 associates, or my top 5 people that I spend time with outside of my family. And that's the other thing, Jonathan. People have to realize that when you get kids and you have a wife and you have a business that you're running, the time that you spend outside of those things, it better freaking be worth it. Because you don't have time for people to waste your time. My brother asked me the other day, like, hey, man, when are we going to play John Madden again? And I'm like, it's been about 2 years, and I'm not missing it.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have time. Although I enjoyed it, I just don't have time. But I'll say, you really have to take an inventory of the people in your life. And I say that there are protons, neutrons, and electrons. And if you have a bunch of neutrons in your life, I would say, you really have to limit them. And I'm not saying get rid of people who are going through struggles and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying.
Correct.
I'm saying you cannot have 5 people who are electrons, people who take away from your life. You can't, and you saying, hey, I'm going to bring them up to where I am, and I'm going to pull them along to where I am. That system does not work. I have room in my life for about 1 or 2 max electrons, because I need the protons to pull me along further than I'm pulling the electrons. So I would say you have to take an consistent inventory of people in your life and say, hey, when these people feed in, or they pour into my life, when they talk, do I get inspired? Am I encouraged to look beyond my situation to where they are going? When they call me up, are they saying, hey, man, I had this thought, and I want to know what your thoughts are about it? Are they having ideas that propel you and challenge you to look at life differently, and even look at your business differently, and look at your relationship differently? Are they challenging your thoughts and pushing you to a different level? If they are not, then you really have to take a different assessment of really your relationships in life.
I love that, and we're pressing close on time, so I'm gonna end it with this. I'm gonna tell a quick story, and then I'm gonna ask you one last question. And I think you're dialed in right now. You got me dialed in. I won't lie to you. You got me all hyped up. And to your point about that story, I was just talking to people about this. So when I turned 22, I started making a lot of money. Thank God at that age. I was making about $300,000 by 22 years old. And I didn't go to college. I dropped out. And I remember being so excited. But the thing I was most excited for was to be in front of my friends, right? Like a loser. And I was so happy. And I was going to the booths, and I was going to the clubs and picking up the tabs and getting the booths and having all this fun. I'm the man. Look at me. I'm the man. I'm the man. Spending all this money thinking I'm sweet. And I'll never ever forget, my mentor walks up to me. God rest his soul. He passed away about 4 or 5 years ago now. He walks up to me. He goes, John, how you doing? I said, good. And it's about 3 years into my career. I'm about 25 now. And he says, talk to me about, what you're doing outside of work, your friends, this and that. So I'm telling him all these stories, all the fun I'm having. And I'm telling him I'm going out with my friends. And I'm telling him how, I'm bored. And I got to do more and I can accomplish more. And he looks at me and he goes, huh, you're bored and you want to accomplish more, yet you're still hanging out with all those kids from before. And I said, yeah, what's the problem? He says, it sounds like to me you're afraid to grow. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm afraid to grow. He's like, well, it looks like you want to be the big shot in the room. And I said, what? That's not true. That's not true at all. That's not what I said. I just want to have fun. He's like, no, fun is fine. Fun is fine. but who's mentoring you? Who's bringing you up? Because it sounds like to me you're going down to everybody else's level. And man, that sat there. I remember being so pissed at him. And I looked at him and I said, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I was so frustrated. And then I said, what do you mean, man? And he's like, you got to find more mentors. And I looked at him and I said, well, I need help. And okay, you could start with me. And I'll never forget, that's kind of where it started. And I latched onto him because I started learning so much more about life. And then I remember I was like, okay, I learned so much from this guy. Let me find someone else in that same kind of echelon that I can learn from. And now I'm learning all these extra things that it's not, forget everything else, right? I'm not the guy that's everyone's looking up to anymore. I'm looking up to these guys, and that's what you need in your life. And if you have people that are willing to share and give you that, you're out of your mind if you turn that away. For anybody that's listening, you are out of your mind to turn that away. Find somebody, I promise you. There are so many good people out there. You just have to look. Look how you and I connected, man. That was very quick, couple conversations, more than happy to help. There are people out there that are willing to help you, but go find it and don't make excuses. Don't be like me. Don't be like anybody else that's making excuses. Go online. Go find someone. They're willing to help you. I promise you. And I'll leave it at that. And Major, I'm going to ask you one last question, sir, before I get you out of here. I know it's bright and early for you. 2 years in to your industry, you're in the mortgage industry. You've obviously are building an incredible business for yourself. You moved, obviously, into Texas, so you've even changed your business the last 2 years, but you found so much success. I want you to just give us 2-3 pieces of advice about discipline and consistency.
Wow. I will start by saying successful people do consistently what unsuccessful people do occasionally. Oh. So you really have to have a plan for what you're doing, and you have to be in the business of writing things down. You cannot just have ideas in your head and make them come to life. And it's really inexpensive. I actually bought this. I think I paid $20 for this vinyl that goes on the wall, and you stick it on the wall. It's kind of like a sorry about the noise. My kids are up now. You have a vinyl on the wall, and you stick it on the wall, and it really costs like $20 or something like that. You get it from Amazon, and it's like a dry erase marker. And I put this up, and I write down stuff. I write down diagrams. I'm going to give you a secret to my business. Okay, I'm in. For all the new guys out there. The secret to my business has always been to get to the broker, the real estate broker. I have business relationships with real estate agents. The goal is to get to the broker. Mm-hmm. I am going to find some way to go to a happy hour or an event or something where the broker is, or friend them on Facebook. That real estate agent that I work with, and I keep my relationship with that real estate agent, help them grow and everything. But that real estate agent is a sort of a gateway to the broker, mm-hmm. who has multiple agents that they are training, and my goal is to help them train those people. And that's been a secret to my business. And so on my board, if I start working with a new agent, I will write their name, know what company they're a part of, and then I start drawing a diagram. Okay, this person is their team leader. This person is their broker. And I draw this out. But this broker, I will draw it. This broker has 30 other people that they're mentoring and all this stuff. So I visualize that, and I keep that ahead of me. So that is a nugget to how I built my business, and how I built the business that I have, which is God's blessed me tremendously in a short amount of time, and I don't have I understand that, but I will say you have to be disciplined about those things and writing things down and following through on those things, and having checklists. And stuff you have to do. That's why I start my day, every morning, with writing stuff down. And at night, I will review my checklists and see, what did I do? Okay, how did I do? Did I let the urgent overshadow the important? Because in the morning, I realized that this stuff was important. Before the fire started coming, this was important. Yes, how did I do at managing my life, or did I let other situations come along and manage my life? Sometimes you do have those days where other situations manage your life, but you have to be in a position where you manage your life more than situations.
Man, Major, you dropped a bunch of nuggets today, man. I especially this damn early in the morning. I appreciate you. That's only one cup of coffee deep. I don't know what the hell happens after two. Listen, man, one of the things you said, and we're gonna end here. You know, God has blessed him. He really has. This is an amazing, amazing human being. But there's one thing that he's done. Even though God's blessed him, God blesses a lot of people, but to execute is on you. God's not gonna make you execute. God will give you the opportunity. God will put it in front of you. Now you choose to ignore it or to do something with it. And this man has chosen to do something with it. And hopefully you learn something, because I know my ass has, especially 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I love that very much, and I'm very grateful for you sharing that. And I'm going to execute. So my challenge to everybody here is start waking up early. Start executing more. Start being more consistent. And I promise you, things will work out. And if you ever need to reach out, just reach out to myself, reach out to Major. There's people out there willing to help you. This is the Early Birds Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Haddad. Our special guest, Major Singleton. We appreciate you guys. And that is a wrap. Take care. Take care.